Hi, this is Scott Cox with Interface Coaching. I wanted to share a screen recording on looking for bad power in your power files. Is your power meter reading consistently from day to day? Is it accurate compared to the norms and the masses? If you have power spikes, how do you identify those? So hopefully that will help you with your own data. I think the power meters have come a long way, but I see bad data. Nothing major, but I do see bad data from athletes. Maybe their power meter is reading 30 or 40 watts higher than is standard, or it's reading low, or it's inconsistent for sprint work, or we see power spikes, and that can make it hard to know if they're improving or not. And so I think it's good to have a power meter that's consistent from day to day, and also accurate. If it's consistent from day to day, you can track your trends. 300 watts is 300 watts every day on that power meter, then you know if you're getting better. So consistency is good. You compare yourself to yourself. If you want to compare yourself to the masses, then you also want to make sure that your data is accurate compared against the norms and what's out there. And then also, if you're looking at other competitors and other athletes, a lot of their power meter data is inaccurate. So it can be easy to look at other athletes and compare yourself to other people and think, oh, just maybe you're demoralized by their power data, but maybe their power meter is not accurate. So anyway, these tools will hopefully help you figure some of those things out, and you can make your own decisions. What I have up on my screen here is WKO5. This is the power duration curve. The yellow line is my mean maximal power data from all of 2013. And then the red line is the power duration curve. And from this red curve, basically the model makes that curve based off of what I feed it in this mean maximal power data. And the red curve tries to smooth it out. And then from this red curve is where I get these metrics, sprint power, FTP, VO2 max. So the model's only as good as the data I give it. So if my power meter is giving inconsistent bad data, then these metrics aren't going to be reliable. I'm not going to be able to track things. So it's important to have good data there. So this part of the curve, this is 1 second over here. This is out to 20 plus hours over here. And we'll start with this section here, the 5 seconds and under area, or 10 seconds and under. And we see that the power here is 1,345 watts at 2 seconds. At 1 second, the model, my mean maximum power data is 1,750 watts. So that big drop off from 1 to 2 seconds, that's clearly a power spike. So when I see something jagged like that, then I know that 1750 is not believable. The power duration curve tries to smooth it out and gives me a little, 1450 watts. But if I track my mean maximal power data, I'm probably more here, like 1375. So I would want to correct this data. But when I look at a power duration curve in WKO5, I see these jumps like that. And I see might work with a new athlete and bring them on. It's not uncommon to find some spikes here that I need to clean up. And then I'll watch that athlete closely in their training, especially when we're doing sprint work. And I'll look for power spikes. If they're having a lot of spikes, if their power meter spiking more than once a week, I'd recommend they get a new one. If you have one power spike a year because of interference with a power line or something, I wouldn't worry about it. But these power meters should not be spiking this frequently, and I think it's a big problem, and I see a lot of it. So anyway, I would identify that as definitely a power spike. This yellow line should come over here nice and gradual. So the red line is what is really reality, what your your mean maximal power curve should look like. So when I see that my data is that much over the curve, okay, that there's something wrong there, and it's jagged. So two things tell me there's a problem. Way out here at 20 hours, 20 plus, I didn't ride that long. There's people that do, but I sure didn't. I think my longest ride was probably 5 or 6 hours that year. I left my computer on, so it kept recording all night. So this is bad data here that I would want to clean up, and it's potentially pulling this red curve down. So if I were to delete all that, then I think my mean maximal power data that's above the red line would probably match the line much more closely. Then I could think that things are accurate. But let's say that I did clean all that up and erased all this bad data here, and then my mean maximal power data is that much above the red curve out here. To me, that would also be bad power. So there's power spikes because there's several seconds. This is 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. And 1 second of power spike is not going to affect my data that or my average power that much over these long durations. But if I saw that power is at high over here, that would lead me to believe that my power meter was reading inaccurately high. It's just not believable. So there are days I've had that with older power meters, and I'm out on a ride and the power meter is reading 350 to 400 watts. And I know from feel and calibrating my brain through the years, training with power meters is probably pushing out 250 watts. So you'll have those days. Unfortunately, I see that with athletes in races. Sometimes they just have the best ride of their life, and they're hung up thinking, "Man, this power data was accurate," and they base everything on it. And it was the power meter for whatever reason was reading high that day. Maybe they didn't zero it out. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know. I've seen it with athletes that do 20-minute power tests. They did all of a sudden they've got this 20-minute power that's 30 or 40 watts higher than they've ever done. And that makes us feel good with our training plan, but then I need to scour that and look to see how real it is. And so that's where using some of the technology out there can help. So those would be the things I see here. A lot of people, maybe they don't want to dive this deep with WOKO5 or other software to look at their data, but I know a lot of athletes use Training Peaks. I do include Training Peaks in what I work with athletes, how I get them workouts. And here's a recent workout from an athlete. We're working on a sprint power, and the file came in for me to look at it, and I saw a max power of 1548. So yeah, that'd be good power. On that note, just a little tangent is, 15 to 1600 watts is a lot of athletes can do that. It's good power, it's good sprint power, but it's believable. I think there's a thought that, if you can sprint 1500 watts, then you're going to be a pro. Yeah, for anaerobic abilities and sprint type power, a lot of amateurs can do what the Tour de France riders can do. What makes the Tour de France riders and pro riders a lot different is their aerobic abilities. So they've got a lot of slow twitch fibers, and that allows them to sustain high power for long durations. 5-minute power is ridiculous, and 20-minute power, 60-minute power. Most amateurs aren't going to be able to touch that. But so they've got all this slow twitch fiber, but they also have some fast twitch. So professional road racer that's a sprinter, and they're pretty much an anomaly. But anyway, I remember when I was first getting into racing, I was a mentor at he meant well. He was trying to help me, but the mentor told me that if you had a 1500 watt sprint, you'd be out racing pro. And anyway, so I think if you see 1500 watts, it is potentially believable. So when I look at this athlete, I see 1548, and then when I look a little bit down here, I've already identified it here, but I'll pull up the power, and then I see 5-second average is 807. So right there, it tells me quickly that that's not real. So it tells me we have to ignore that. And then if I highlight this section and zoom in on it, and I'll see, he's going from nothing, and he starts pedaling, and he's getting these 1500 watt readings here. It's a pretty common time that power meters will spike when you're going from just sitting there and you start up, or when you're coasting on a descent and you start pedaling. Those would be times that you might notice these power spikes. So anyway, that's using Training Peaks and the basic software quickly tells me that 1548 is not real. I can also look down here at the mean max power curve for the day, and it's a little bit jagged. So I'd see at 5 seconds, 800 watts. So quickly I see that this isn't, the 1500 watts isn't believable. Training Peaks doesn't give you under 5-second power data because they know that it's not accurate. So you're looking at your 5-second average. So that's what I look at when I'm working with an athlete on sprint power, is because so many power meters do spike, is I look at their 5-second power, and is that power improving consistently versus that 1-second max power that makes everybody feel good. So I'm more interested in is the 5-second power improving. So anyway, hopefully that will help you identify some bad data, power spikes. You can use some of the online calculators. I'll go over this example in a second, but if you've got bad data, or you've got data you're questioning, you can look on Strava, see what the grade was and the conditions, and enter that data in here, and then see where your speeds and times do they fit, or something off. And that's the next example I'll show here. This is a ride I did recently, and I wanted, as a little bit of a test, I did an hour, just under an hour long threshold effort. And I wanted to see, is my power meter reading accurately that day? Because I'm going to base my training off of that threshold. And pick a segment here that I know that's been done thousands of times on Diablo. I did 18 minutes, 17 seconds. My best all-time time is 17:30, so that's believable there. I can see that the distance here, the elevation and the grade my speed, my power. So I look at that and think, okay, is that accurate? You know, my power meter I know is consistent from day to day because I check that in my rides and then my local terrain, but I want to know, is this accurate against the masses? Can I compare myself to other people with this power? And I'll pull up the bike calculator. I enter my rider weight, my bike weight. So this is a key point with these online calculators is your rider weight. This is you in full kit, helmet, shoes, food in your pockets, everything. So if you want these to be accurate, we need to put accurate things here. Here's my bike with my water bottle on it and my computer. So anyway, those are good to have in there, but I enter in all the data, enter in 290 or 295 watts, and I see that just about 11.2 miles per hour and about 18 minutes, 17 seconds. So I think that I've got accurate data. Another double check is I'll pull up the leaderboard. There's thousands of people have done the same segment, so I can look at their data to compare mine. And I pull up here, and I'm going to narrow this down based on my weight, and then I'm just going to start scrolling out. This part's a little tedious with Strava, but it's worth doing periodically with your data to make sure that you've got good data in there. Of course, internet's a little bit slow. There we go. Get out here. Just about there. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, so I'm 18, 17, and then I quickly look for power. I look for lightning bolts. That means these riders actually used power versus non-lightning bolts. That tends to be estimated. So I see 294, 268, 258, 278, 276, 311, 290. So my 295, based on that weight, to me is pretty believable, and I can compare myself with reasonable accuracy to these other riders. I could dive into that a little deeper. I could pick an athlete that maybe I know locally, click on the date, pull up their data on that segment, look at their watts per kilogram, or maybe I know about what they weigh and that'll help me. So these are the tools that I use with athletes I work with. So I'll look for power spikes, make sure to clean those up. It's really important for sprint power. And then if I'm more interested in how accurate their data is day to day comparing to other athletes, then I'm going to, pull up segments and see what their times were and compare them to other athletes at similar body weights, and make sure and use the online calculators with the physics to make sure everything jives. I think these power meters, they're expensive. The technology does exist that they should be accurate. Unfortunately, there is a lot of bad data out there, and that can definitely interfere and hurt an athlete's training. So if your power meter spikes, let's say once or twice a year, I'd say it's probably not a big deal. If you're getting spikes weekly, then I'd get it replaced. If your power meter is reading inaccurately high or low more than 5 watts or so, then I'd also contact the manufacturer and I'd let them know that there's an issue and I'd get a new one. And then you can also use these resources I've showed you here to make your case for with the companies. Most of them have great customer service, so they want their product to be good. So sometimes it's a little bit of a headache with a phone call and things, but I think it's worth the effort to make sure your data is accurate from day to day, consistent, and usable. So hopefully that helps you. And those are some things that I look at. And good luck with your training.